Who decides on definitions of literary theory? The name's Justin Huyssteen, and this is what we're going to be looking at today. So let's dive straight into it. Now, whenever you want to take a look at a theory, now obviously, just to preface this, we are talking about literary theories, because of course this is literary theory explained. We are looking at literary theories, it makes sense. So when we are considering a theory, we first have to look at the earliest propositions of the theory, right? When we're first creating a theory. Now, people aren't just going to be making theories all the time. Theories are they're quite a broad thing. But when a theory basically is new, right? When I say we, I don't mean us specifically. I mean we as people, as humans. When we create a theory, we need to have some kind of definition of the theory and what it seeks to do, what it seeks to do with its object of study and all of those kinds of things. So, to do this, what we need to have is a clearly delimited area of study, a method of inquiry uniquely suited to it, and a set of terms belonging specifically to that area of study. Now, basically what this means, a clearly delimited area of study, that is very, very simple. That is literally just referring to there is a specific thing that this theory is focused on, its area of study. It isn't looking at other things, right? A literary theory isn't really going to be looking at the geological age of rocks, because that is a geological thing. That is a different area of study. All right, then of course a method of inquiry uniquely suited to it. It needs to have a specific way in which it is studied, right? If we look at rocks again, you can't look at how we date rocks, how we figure out how old rocks are. That does not have the same method as how we might interpret a book. We look at them differently. So we need to have a method of inquiry that is uniquely suited to that particular thing. Then, of course, we need a set of terms. This will be theoretical terms, concepts, ideas, things that are specifically related to that specific theory and how it specifically does the specific thing that it is specifically trying to do. See, quite simple. Quite simple. You need what are you studying? How are you going to study it? And then words that are associated with that study. That is basically it. Once this is in place, though, then a theory essentially needs to be defended. When it comes to defending a literary theory or any kind of really social theory, there will be counterclaims and counterexamples that are in some way coming after it, right? Something that is trying to attack it, not in the sense of trying to destroy it, but attacking a theory is actually a way to make it stronger. When you come with criticisms toward it, then you have to figure out a way to work with that, right? So, when we need to defend a theory that we've developed, we need to account for counterexamples and counterclaims. Now, a counterexample is an example that the definition of, this theory or whatever did not account for. So, a counterexample, if there is something that goes against that is an actual example of something that goes against it. So, say if we have a literary theory that is trying to look at just the text, you would say, this is only caring about the text. Well, a counterexample of it would be that the author does basically exist, right? There is something that is some kind of thing that runs counter to it that is against what the thing is. Now, a counterclaim is similar in terms of the fact that it's something that goes against it. It is counter to it, but a counterclaim is a claim that opposes or refutes another claim. So if we were to say the author's intention matters, the author's intention always matters, then if we have a claim that says, well, there are times when an author's intention doesn't matter, or when we couldn't know an author's intention, then that is a claim that goes against it. So you see counterexamples, counterclaims, things that are against it. Now, something being against it is a good thing, because then you can sit there and try and think of, well, how does this theory respond to these arguments against it? Will it be able to? And basically, a robust theory is one that can handle this kind of scrutiny. It's one that can handle it. If it can't handle it, then it's a bad theory. Well, not necessarily a bad theory, but it's not a theoretically sound theory. It needs more work, basically, or it's going in the wrong direction. So this is an important thing to keep in mind, and counterclaims and counterexamples are something very important to understand. Then, of course, something that is very, very, very important to a theory is its long-term viability. Basically, can this theory withstand the test of time? Or does this theory last for a couple weeks, couple months, couple years, and then just fade away? If it just fades away, then it doesn't have long-term viability, does it? So basically, no theory is perfect or accounts for everything. Theories allow us to understand some specific thing in some specific way, right? So if we're going to look at an example of a literary theory, if you were to take something like Russian formalism focused on the form. It didn't care about the content. It allowed us to understand that, to pay attention to the linguistic elements of a literary text. Didn't really care about anything else, which means that its focus was on that specific thing, which allowed us to better understand the text, better than we ever have before, basically, because it was so focused on the linguistic elements. Now, of course, no theory is perfect, because Russian formalism doesn't account for the context. It doesn't account for the sender. It doesn't account for anything outside of just the text itself. And so it can't be perfect. It is not holistic. It is very, very singular. So that is something important to keep in mind. Now, a theory is able to last longer when it can basically withstand criticisms, right? Something like Russian formalism. Russian formalism, as its own theory, kind of came to an end, but it informed and influenced the structuralists. The Prague structuralists came out of that, and they became a big force in structuralism, obviously. And then the structuralists influenced post-structuralism, and so on. So these things also, they're important because they inform later things. They have their own influence at their time and beyond in many ways. So essentially, if you want to figure out the long-term viability of a theory, does it have more upsides than downsides? If it's terrible, if it just has downsides, it's just bad. If it's just bad, then, well, it's probably not going to last very long, is it? Something like logical positivism didn't last very long, because it as a theory was very narrow in its focus, and other things came along that basically not disproved it necessarily, but showed how reductive and small it was. And because of that, it no longer really held much sway because it was seen as being too reductive, too small. It didn't focus on a broad enough palette, basically. So, also, of course, theories are very, very seldom actually thrown away completely. As I just said, basically, Russian formalism ended up informing the Prague structuralists, which informed structuralism as a whole, which informed the post-structuralists, which goes into all the sort of postmodern stuff of today. These things all influenced everyone else. So basically, these discarded theories they inform things that have come afterwards, but they can also teach us something now, right? When you are learning about literary theory, you want to learn about the form, and so the formalists are a good thing to focus on at some point. So, that's important. And also, of course, don't discount a theory just because you don't agree with it. Like, I don't agree with it, and so therefore it's bad. No, it's not bad. It's just you don't agree with it. Or even if it's been seen as no longer having much value, it can still have some level of value. So don't just throw it out. Pretty much. Theories inform us. Theories help us to understand. And yeah, that is theories, pretty much, and their viability. And that's it from me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please do the usual things, or not enjoy, but if you found it informative, do the like, comment, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube things. Also, click the bell thing so that you get notifications about these. Keep checking out the channel. There's going to be a lot more about literary theory, so please, there'll be lots more that you can learn. And if you did enjoy it, and if you did learn, please, you can post a comment saying something about that, to that effect. If you have any questions, you can also post those. Some really good questions might end up becoming videos of their own, because maybe they're worth it. So yeah, go for it. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.